Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the newest episode of Crunch Time with Kruck. This is episode 8. Who'd have thought we'd make it this far?
Yeah, we're doing a good job, Kruck. Let's keep it going, right?
So, as always, Mad Max joins me at the table. We're going to start off with the second part of the segment, Masters Talk. So, without much more ado, we're going to jump right into it. So, this is the second installment of Masters Talk, and like the first segment was with my dad. He was wearing that Dick Butkus jersey. I know you talked about him in that Oklahoma drill. But he did mention the honorary tee-off. Usually it's Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, and Gary Player. Arnold Palmer unfortunately passed away. So filling in his place is Lee Elder. Elder is one of the best golfers still left alive, so it makes sense that he took the role. Justin Rose is leading the pack after round 1 with 6 under par. Jordan Spieth, a well-known golfer, he's not doing so hot. He's only 1 under par. And then Bubba Watson had a very hard first day. He finished 2 over par.
Kruk, like you said, it's Justin Rose right now with the lead at -6. But I'm keeping an eye on Mark Leishman right now. Mark Leishman, he's doing a good job. He's keeping up with the pack right now. And Hiniki Matsuyama from Japan, that's another one to watch. He's an interesting one that could make a noise here in the Masters too. So you never know. The Masters is a big tournament, right? Golf is 4 days. You never know how it's going to go, right? Sometimes you get momentum, sometimes you don't. And it's going to be up to who can be well with their putter, you know what I mean? Especially in the big moments. You know, if they can get big shots, they can get the driver on the first shot, and make their putts, get some birdie putts for each one of them. We can have a fun Masters coming up here, Kruk.
Absolutely. Another person I want to talk about is Bernd Weisberger. So far, he is 6 under par in the second round, a total of 4 under after 2 days played. Another person I'd like to mention, Tony Finau, is 5 under through 9 in his second day, and that brings him to 3 under in total 2 rounds. Fun fact, it costs $375 this year to get into the Masters.
Wow.
With that said, when one person buys, you get a badge. With that badge, anybody 16 and under is welcome to join you on the course for free. You get 1 free person with the badge. If the person who buys the badge were to die or to be unable to attend the event, they could give that badge to somebody else. So if I were to die, I could give it to like my sister or my mom and dad, somebody like that. And we wish all the golfers the best of luck. The Masters is a beautiful course. It's a very hard course.
Yeah.
Par 72, so it's a long day. The purse, what you'd win if you win it all, is $11,500,000. But the best part is that green jacket.
Yeah. Can't deny having the green jacket. It's just another feeling, right, Kruk? It's something that everyone wants to embody in the golf game. It's something they enjoy, and sometimes it's emotional for those players, you know what I mean? Because they work their whole lives to try to get that green jacket. It's just something honorary and be a part of. One more person I want to keep an eye on, though, Jordan Spieth is another person I want to keep an eye on for the Masters here. Right now, last I checked, he was at -2, but he could make another run this way. He won the Masters back in 2017, so he has the experience. And he's a very young golfer that can make a lot of good plays out there on the golf course. He knows how to manage the game, and which is very important for golf. You got to know strategy, where you got to hit it at. You got to not try to hit it in the bunkers, obviously. You don't want to have bad bunker shots. And obviously he does a good job with that so far. So you got to keep an eye on Jordan Spieth, Kruck.
Absolutely. And this has been the second installment of Masters Talk, the second and final. So we're going to toss it back to the studio.
There you go, everyone. That was a great job talking about the Masters Talk with Kruck. Awesome job. But now we're going to transition over. We're going to talk about the men's and women's national championship games that happened, both for the men's and women's sides. Now, on the women's side, Kruck, we had 2 Pac-12 teams. We had the number 3 team, Arizona, versus the number 1 seed, Stanford, and it was a close game, 54-53, came down to the wire. Arie McDonald had a chance to win it with a game-winning 3-pointer, but didn't go down at the buzzer. So that was tough. It made the Cardinal win the title. Now, as for the men's side, we had the number 1 seed Baylor Bears, and they went against the previous undefeated team in the Gonzaga Bulldogs. But Baylor they destroyed them from the get-go. It looked like they won the game 86-70. Jared Butler led the Bears with scoring with 22 points and also had 7 assists in the game. So, Kruck, how do you feel about both of these championship games?
Well, first off, I'm going to tackle the men's. Baylor upsetting Gonzaga. I know I didn't say it on the podcast, but prior to the game starting, I was hanging out with the star quarterback for Avila University, John Jacobs III. Him and I went to Buffalo Wild Wings to watch the game, favorite spot for many sports fans. And him and I were talking who we thought would win the game, and he convinced me to cheer for Baylor. Being a sports analyst and a huge sports fan, he convinced me to cheer against the undefeated Gonzaga team, and, well, it worked out.
Yeah.
Baylor was out the gate fast. They ended up scoring on 10 of their first 13 possessions. They were 10 for 23 beyond the three-point arc, as well as 16 for 18 from the free throw line. Baylor out-rebounded Gonzaga by 16 rebounds. And just to mention, earlier this year in the last podcast, I mentioned how Gonzaga was a forward-based team and the rest were backcourts. Well, Baylor's front court told Gonzaga what was up.
Yeah.
And 16 extra rebounds over Gonzaga. That's insane. Gonzaga also gave up 5 turnovers and let the ball get stolen a grand total of 8 times. So not the best of showing for the undefeated team, but if you don't learn from history, it's doomed to repeat itself. Once again, an undefeated team loses in the national championship. The last undefeated team to win it all, 1976 Indiana Hoosiers.
Absolutely, Kruck. And the way that Gonzaga just was not focused throughout the game, it just looked like from the get-go, Baylor was controlling it from the start. And when you look at it, I think the big key was stopping Drew Timme from Gonzaga. He was the big piece. He was the big kind of person for them, and they did a good job just boxing him out. Like I said, all those rebounds were an important part of the game. And when I look at overall, leading scorer of the game for Gonzaga was Jalen Suggs. He did end up having 22 points, but again, he struggled overall going with the whole process. So that's very important as well. And Kisper only had 12 points, and Timme, like I said, only had 12 points, which really didn't help out overall for the Zags. And when I look at Baylor, like you said, like I mentioned, Jared Butler had 22 points, but Davion Mitchell and Maceo Teague, another players that really came to play. Again, that whole backcourt shooting threes of Baylor just got Gonzaga out of rhythm, right, Kruck? It just didn't feel overall this way. And again, I give congrats to Scott Drew and the Baylor Bears. It's always cool when, remember, back in 2003, he had an interview and he always said, I want to try to bring a championship back to Baylor. And believe it or not, he did it. And that's very awesome to see. And this way. Now, before we head off, I'm going to tackle the women's real quick. Like I said, if you remember last week, I picked UConn and South Carolina. I thought that would be the championship game, but wow, wasn't I wrong, Kruck? It did not end up that way. Arizona, when they played UConn the Final Four, they just took care of business. They got Paige Beckers out of rhythm. They got the whole UConn team out of rhythm. And Ari McDonald, the defensive player, like I mentioned in last week's show, was very important in Arizona's win against UConn. And then again, was close to helping them win against Stanford. But again, Stanford found a way to get it done. And it's because of their three-point shooting. Stanford, like I mentioned, they're a great three-point shooting team. Like I said, they only won by 1 over South Carolina, 66-65. And it was funny, they win again by 1 point, 54-53. So again, 2 close games, but they found a way to win. And Haley Jones was a big part of that for Stanford. She had 24 points in the Final Four matchup, and she had 17 in the championship game. So again, clutch shots for the Cardinals. And again, congratulations to Stanford as they win a title for the women's side.
Well, I mean, you're definitely right. Stanford does shoot the 3 ball better than Arizona, but I don't think that's what the championship game came down to. Just looking at it real quick, Stanford shot 42% from the field, being 24 for 57 from the field. Arizona shot less than 30% from the field, 17 for 59. And when you look at the scoring breakdown per quarter, Arizona got outscored by 8 points in the first quarter, and then they outscored Stanford the rest of the game. So that first quarter is really what lost the game for Arizona. In terms of rebounding, Stanford almost doubled the rebounds Arizona got. 47 rebounds to only 29. Looking at the assist numbers, 10 extra assists for Stanford. The blocks, 3 extra blocks. The only stat that really goes Arizona's way is steals. Arizona had 12 steals compared to Stanford's 1. turnovers, Stanford had 21 turnovers and still found a way to win it.
That's crazy.
But the major stat that really pops out to me, Stanford was 100% from the free throw line, shooting 2 for 2 in a national championship game. 2 free throws in a national championship game. That's insane to me. But, as always, congratulations to both teams. Just a great, well-performed game. And we're going to move forward to Sam Darnold going to the Panthers. What do you got on that one, Max?
Kruck, I believe this is an interesting fit for the Panthers. And I say this because when I look at Sam Darnold, I never really had high hopes for Sam Darnold when he was in New York. Now, again, that could be because of New York didn't have the organization to help him out a lot. He didn't have the receivers that were with him. But here's the stats that I figured out from the first season and leading on to the 3 seasons he's been in the NFL so far. First season, he had 17 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. 2019, 19 and 13, and then 9 touchdowns and 11 interceptions in those 3 seasons that he had. What's the trend there? Double-digit interceptions in 3 of those seasons. And that's a problem. And when everyone was coming out of college with USC, everyone believed that Sam Darnold could be that quarterback. He could be maybe a trendsetter, could help him out, but he doesn't feel like he's that kind of quarterback right now. And maybe if he goes to Carolina, maybe Joe Brady can help him out. Obviously, he helped out Joe Burrow win a championship, so maybe that could be a fit. And obviously the weapons down there, Christian McCaffrey, which I believe he's one of the best running backs that no one's talking about in the NFL. And I think he's one of the best, Kruck. That's just my opinion with Christian McCaffrey. And then receivers Robin Anderson and DJ Moore. Maybe that will help out Darnold get started. But now, looking at the Jets, and when we look at the draft coming up here, Kruck, in 3 weeks, now the Jets are probably they're getting Zach Wilson right away at that spot. You know what I mean? Because they're definitely going to be looking for a quarterback and for helping them out as well. So we'll see. I think Sam Darnold needs to improve a lot. And like I mentioned, if he can get Joe Brady can help him out, maybe get his reads better, that could possibly help him out in the future there in Carolina.
Well, I mean, absolutely. Before we started the podcast, we were talking, Max, myself, and then the NBA analyst, Justin Brown. Who did we think had the best quarterbacks come out of their school? Ohio State, USC, or Alabama? Personally, I'm not an Alabama fan, but I do think Alabama produces better quarterbacks than the other 2 schools. As of late, Mac Jones, I thought he was pretty good. I think he's a top 3 quarterback coming out of the draft. Tua hasn't been able to prove himself yet. Jalen Hurts, well, let's just say that he got Carson Wentz fired. But then if you look back further, you're going to get a list of quarterbacks kind of like this guy named Joe Namath. He was really good with the Jets back in the day. This guy named Bart Starr with the Green Bay Packers. As much as I hate the Packers, he was a really good quarterback. And you look at the other 2 schools, well, USC's best quarterback is arguably Sam Darnold. And then Ohio State, well, they're really a running team. They produce great running backs, great wide receivers, but they really don't produce that good of quarterbacks, in my opinion. But Sam Darnold going to the Jets, I think it was a really good move for Darnold because he really couldn't blossom under the Jets. There was like they always say, oh, there's a glass ceiling here, but there was not a glass ceiling for Darnold. It was concrete with a roof and an attic in between. Maybe he just needs a new city, a new jersey to wear, new coach, new plays.
Okay, Kruck, here's what I'm going to say. I agree with you with Sam Darnold, and he needs to go to certain players. But Alabama? For certain quarterbacks? I don't know about that. And when I think of Mac Jones, here's the problem with Mac Jones. Here's what I'm going to say. He kind of reminds me of the quarterbacks that are now going on nowadays. He doesn't have the pocket presence that I believe that's what the NFL is leaning towards right now. And what I'm leaning towards is with Justin Fields and his talent. And I get it. I'm an Ohio State fan. Don't let that bias seem in. Don't worry about it. He has the talent and skill ability to make plays for Ohio State. Now, I get it. Dwayne Haskins didn't pave out. Everyone talked about him. And I get it. There was other quarterbacks that didn't help out with Ohio State over the years. But looking at it this way, I look at Alabama. Mac Jones, I thought a lot of it had to do with Devontae Smith more than it was Mac Jones. And when we look at Devontae Smith, he had almost half of the receiving yards that Mac Jones threw. Half of it. So thinking about it, and guess what? He just won the Heisman Trophy. So that's another thing to worry about. And I believe that's what the talent of Alabama had. Now as for USC, over the years, USC, they've had, Matt Leinart, they had Carson Palmer, they had those quarterbacks. But again, they kind of did okay. They didn't pan out so well in the NFL. Obviously, Carson Palmer was with the Bengals for a certain time, and then he ended up with the Cardinals. But, again, he didn't pave out to be the quarterback everyone was expecting to. So, in my overall take, I believe that it goes a lot of ways. Obviously, a lot of schools, they kind of have equal balance with the quarterbacks, right? Ohio State, Alabama, and USC. But overall, the talent for at least this year's draft, I can say, is now leading up to our next topic, which I'm just going to go into right away here. Going into the next topic, like we said, the NFL draft will be beginning on April 29th in Cleveland, Ohio. So good. And the teams and organizations are getting ready to start getting new franchise players to help their teams make a playoff run. But already a major move already happened before the draft, Kruck, with the 49ers getting the number 3 overall pick from the Miami Dolphins. And then the Dolphins then got in return the number 12, the 2021, and a first-round pick in the 2022-2023. However, though, the Dolphins then said, well, we're going to switch it up, and then we're going to give it to the Eagles. And the Eagles now, they're going to give them the number 6 and 156 pick in the draft, switching it to be the number 12, 2022 picks back to the Eagles, and the Dolphins will get that as the number 6, 156. So, Kruck, like I mentioned, what do you believe the 49ers now, moving all the way up? We're assuming it's going to be a quarterback. So what do you think the 49ers are thinking at that 3rd overall pick?
Well, the 49ers 2 years ago were in the Super Bowl. They played against Kansas City Chiefs. They lost. Chiefs made a great comeback, and, you know, it was a great celebration here in Kansas City. But the 49ers were so close to winning, and then last year kind of dropped the ball. You know, I don't know what's going on right now, but
injuries, man.
I don't think a quarterback is going to be the answer to the 49ers' problems. Jimmy G, he was really good. I mean, a man like Belichick wanted him on the team, and he had a guy like Tom Brady. You know, if Belichick, one of the greatest coaches of all time, wants Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think the 49ers should be willing to get rid of him just yet. I think he's a pretty good pick. I don't think you should try to get rid of him. You know, there is no guarantee they're going to get rid of him, but moving up to number 3 in a quarterback-heavy draft, that's almost sending a sign that, you know, they're going to take a quarterback. Otherwise, there's somebody on this board still that they really want to get and they think is going to go quickly.
Who do you think that is, Krupp?
Well, that one tackle out of Alabama, his name's slipping me right now, but, you know, he's just an absolute great player. And
you talking about Penei Sewell from Oregon? Because Penei Sewell from Oregon is a top pick that's really up there that could help them out. Now, I'm getting what your point is. With Jimmy Garoppolo, yes, he's been an okay quarterback. But like I mentioned in the last segment we had with Sam Darnold, the NFL is turning into a league that is turning into, with Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and other players that are helping him out. That's what the NFL is turning into. And guess what? Mahomes just won a Super Bowl a couple of years ago back, and he's leading him again. And he's still doing the same thing, throwing and passing and helping his team out in any shape, way, or possible. And when I'm looking at it, I believe that's what Kyle Shanahan is believing in his future. I believe he understands that Jimmy Garoppolo is just, I guess, not the answer. You know what I mean? He's just not the answer for their program. And looking at it, a lot of people are trying, like we mentioned, Mac Jones, a lot of people think that he could be there. Some people compare him back to a Matt Ryan, which I kind of understand that. He's kind of that dual threat, everything kind of quarterback. But looking at it, Justin Fields makes the most sense for the 49ers. And it makes the most sense because the 49ers, when you're looking at their division, I look at it this way, is the Seahawks, they got Russell Wilson on their team. Arizona's got Kyler Murray. And both of those, what do those quarterbacks resemble? They kind of resemble kind of athletic, kind of moving around quarterbacks. And if you want to compete and win that side of your bracket, sorry, I meant the Rams with Stafford. That's my fault. I had to add that in there. But anyways, when we look at it, all those kind of quarterbacks, maybe besides Stafford, are kind of athletic kind of quarterbacks. And when we look at Russell Wilson, yes, he makes a lot of plays, and he can do this way. We don't know how long he'll be there. That's what I'm also worried about with Russell Wilson. But I think Justin Fields could help them out, especially with how he makes plays. Now, he needs to get better with his first and second read. I think that's true. A lot of people have done with that because he focuses on one player and he goes around, doesn't really help himself out. But Justin Fields can bring that sort of energy to the team. And a lot of people also talked about Trey Lance from North Dakota State, right? Trey Lance from North Dakota State. And that kid, to me, is also similar to Justin Fields in a sense that he also can run the ball a lot, but he's also got a big arm. You know what I mean? He's got a big arm, can throw for a lot of yards. And sometimes he reminds me a little bit of Carson Wentz, just a little bit. You know what I mean? Not a lot, because he's not – Carson Wentz was not obviously that much dual threat, kind of moving around as much as Trey Lance is. But Trey Lance also has a good upside to him that, you know, he's a small guy. And sometimes small college guys can do very well. You know what I mean? They can do very well and help teams out. So it's up to what the 49ers believe is best. But in my opinion, I believe Fields will probably be the best fit there. And maybe like later in the draft with New England, some people had in mock drafts before, they had Justin Fields going to New England. And some other mock drafts had Mac Jones going this way. So it depends on what you feel is best, I guess, for your organization, Kruck.
Yeah, the offensive tackle I was talking about was Alex Leatherwood. I was just looking for his name. 6'6", 325. I think he's one of the best tackles in there, but absolutely the tackle from Oregon, Sewell, he's definitely up there as well. Moving forward, the MLB will be hosting its All-Star game at Coors Field in Denver. This is the first time they've hosted since 1998. The stadium expects to be at full capacity at the All-Star break. And since it is in the Mile High State, the home run derby should be extra fun. Max.
Kruck, I think this is great for the MLB to stand up for what they believe in. You know what I mean? Trying to figure out that Georgia had problems with, you know, the voting laws and things that were going on. I think it's important that the MLB wants to make a statement for not just for themselves, but I think for other sports going around to understand what our state of our culture and everything is going through. You know what I mean? I think that's very important to figure out and help them out this way. And I also believe, like you said, Coors Field is going to be a fun one, right? Home run derby. It's always it's a very cool field, and it's going to be very cool to have that happen at the MLB All-Star Game. And I appreciate also, like I mentioned, the MLB doing this because the MLB has been, or baseball in general, has been America's pastime for a long time. And everyone respects watching baseball and what they do to help them out and the overall aspect of it. And if baseball is going to do it, it can help out other sports change as well. And that's how I believe it. So overall, I applaud the MLB, and I hope the All-Star game goes well for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Fun fact, Tampa Bay is the only team never to host an All-Star game. 2 reasons I could come up with offhand. One, the humidity. It's probably like walking through water down there when it's absolutely humid. And then the other one, they do play in a dome. So you can't really get aerial coverage when you're in a dome. You know, MLB likes to do those flyovers and everything. So, you know, the home run derby will be fun. It's obviously way too early to start speculating who's going to be in the All-Star game. We're a week into the season. But if you watch baseball, there are some obvious names who will be in there, one of which, Aaron Judge probably is going to be in there. Ronald Acuna Jr., he's been a hot spark for the Braves lately, as well as his buddy Freddie Freeman. But aside from that, we don't want to speculate too much because the more that we speculate, the more possibility that we're wrong. And we don't like to do that.
Definitely not, Krug. We don't want to speculate on any names because, like I said, this whole season now, since we're now going to a full season with the MLB, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be more stats compiled up. You know what I mean? So we don't know what's going to be like with who's going to hit home runs, who's going to get hits, and just the whole season is up to grabs, basically. You never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. And it's almost getting to be a regular occurrence, but Avila University has another wild weekend planned for them. Max, what do you got on that?
Kruck, again, a wild weekend for this week. First, I'm going to start off and talk about our women's soccer team. Obviously, they lost a tight battle Wednesday night against Kansas Wesleyan in the KCAC semifinals. That was held at Stryker Sports Complex in Wichita, Kansas. They lost a 1-0 battle. Overall, though, Madison Baker had a great game. She had 9 saves in total in the loss as the team just kept battling throughout the game, tried to get shot after shot, but just wasn't falling for the Eagles in that game as well. This week, though, we got some good games. Our baseball team is going to start a 3-game series today, as they will have a doubleheader today against Friends University beginning at 2, and then the second game beginning around 5 or 6. So that'll be very exciting. See, hopefully the Eagles can get a win on their home turf. That's always important to win at home. And then they also play a game tomorrow at noon. So obviously tune in to the Avila Sports Network with their good old Kruck and watch the game. Obviously for the softball team, they actually play a doubleheader on the road at Kansas Wesleyan tomorrow. That'll begin at 2 o'clock, and they will finish another time around this way. But also shout out to our dance team. They're competing this weekend in Orlando in the 2021 NTU College Classic National Invitational. So obviously we wish them luck. Hopefully they can get us a good score and overall help this week. And obviously I'm going to shout out to my man, running back Malik Nesbitt. I'm going to shout out Malik Nesbitt. This week he won the KCAC Offensive Player of the Week and NAIA Offensive Player of the Week. That's the national ranking for the player. That's awesome. I give it up to Nez. He's a great friend. And obviously we hope we can make the playoffs, right? Obviously we will not know for a football team if we make the playoffs until Sunday at 6 o'clock. So obviously getting our fingers crossed, Kruck, that we can make it into the playoffs and help our team out. So you got any other insight for us?
Absolutely. Nesbitt, I was going to mention how he was NAIA Player of the Week, Offensive Player of the Week as well. 5 touchdowns, 250 yards. That usually does that. The dance team, good luck at nationals. Going to be honest, don't really know much about what goes into dance, but I will cheer you on wholeheartedly. 7-time consecutive KCAC champions in that stat. So, they definitely have the motivation. They definitely have the ability to do it. I know they'll be doing 2 routines on the first day, one of which is a hip hop, and then followed by their sideline routine. So, good luck down at nationals. Bring home the trophy. Baseball is playing a 3-game series against Friends. Yeah. Avila is 2-24, not off to a hot start, but they got time to turn it around. They're batting just south of 250 and slugging just south of 400. They have over 200 hits. They have 37 doubles and 23 home runs with 120 RBIs. They're coming off a great win against the KCC, Kansas Christian College, so hopefully they can keep that and roll through this team. Friends is 18-14, so they're almost 50% on the year. Yeah. They're batting just south of 260 and slugging just south of 360. They have 242 hits, 40 doubles, 13 home runs, and 115 RBIs. They are 2-8 in their last 10 games, so they're kind of on a slump. The key takeaway here for the baseball games, Avila likes to play the long ball, hit it deep, hit home runs. Unfortunately, they don't do that as often as they'd like to. Friends play small ball, singles, move runners around, keep runners in motion, keep the defense on their toes. We're going to have to see who wins that. Softball, the doubleheader against Kansas Wesleyan. Avila is 14-13. They're batting north of 250 and slugging north of 400. A great feat for a team. They have 203 hits, 141 runs, 16 homers, and 126 RBIs. They're great at stealing bases, though. They have 2 players in particular, Chelsea Kurtz and then Kennedy Meyer. 2 great outfielders, defensively as well as on the base paths. There's something that you don't want to take your eye off of if you're the catcher. Kansas Wesleyan is 13-11. They're batting just south of 290 and slugging north of 400 as well. They have 188 hits, 24 doubles, not 200. 13 home runs, exactly on the dot, 100 RBIs, and then they've won 5 of their last 7 games. A key takeaway here, the pitching for Avila has to be on. Madison McKinney is generally the ace for Avila. With the injury to the second pitcher in Avila's lineup, McKinney has to be on and has to be feeling it in the first game. So the second game can be a bullpen type of a game. And as far as football awaits the NAIA ranking for a chance at the postseason. The NAIA's official postseason seeding comes out Sunday night, and the Eagles could be in the mix. After a record-breaking season of 8-1, the Eagles have put themselves in a position to make a run at the national championship. Regardless of the playoffs, though, Avila University did finish co-conference champs with Bethel College and the KCAC, so we're getting a ring.
Yeah, that's obviously great. I can't wait to get a ring. What about you, Kruck?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It'd be exciting to have a ring and enjoy ourselves. And again, we're going to wish all the teams luck this season and this week, and overall, and have a good time in general.
And As always, Mad Max, Jacob Kruckenberg. We'd like to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.